TV show hosted by a pair of Manitobans can now be streamed through Super Channel. It's called Ghosts Off Grid, and its first season takes place in Manitoba and Western Canada. The creative minds behind Ghosts Off Grid are Johnny Wiebe and Jordan Penner, who are known as the Paranormies, and they've been sharing their spooky escapades.
Together.
I'm Jonathan Wiebe, and I'm a ghost hunter.
It's clear something is different here. This stuff truly happens.
Very cold temperature spikes here. Immediately, extremely cold. It's just so exciting going into new places and getting answers and hearing stories.
Whoa.
What is happening? I mean, the subject just fascinates me.
Holy shit.
If I could find out if the devil was real, then I'd be able to figure out more if God is real. Oh my God.
It's always right here.
Are you feeling anything?
I just feel ill. I always feel ill, like I'm about to pass out.
Can you show yourself for me, William? We don't have a lot of time left tonight. That mystery and that unknown that kind of just drives me to keep going. We keep secrets here.
Holy shit. If they were to go looking for it, they would find it.
Jordan, what the...
Of the show Ghosts Off Grid, and creators Johnny Wiebe and Jordan Penner join me in the studio, or do they?
We might not be here.
It's getting chilly in here. Do you hear anything?
It's funny because I mean, we've done so many places around the city, but like this is our first time doing, I guess, a radio interview in the city.
In the city, yeah,
in our hometown, but yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you know, this building, it's a lot of people have come and gone through these doors.
Yeah.
Something
just like
weird
a lot
might
of
happen.
just like a lot of buildings around here. Like we've done like investigations at the Marlborough Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, right around there is the Burton Cummings. There's just so many buildings right around this area that are just like packed with paranormal activity.
Yeah, you're in a hot spot or cold spot, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So we did hear a bit of the trailer, but can you tell us a bit more about Ghosts Off Grid? Like, what is it?
So it stemmed off of the YouTube channel Paranormies that we started. So we actually we started that YouTube channel on our own. And then there was actually one night, I remember we were having a couple of drinks and just hanging out, and we decided that we wanted somebody to edit the videos for us because it was just taking too much of our time. Mm-hmm. So we reached out to Farpoint Films, and they're the ones that actually, in return, they said they wouldn't be able to have the time to edit the videos, but they asked, would you guys like to have a TV show?
Oh, let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
so it kind of happened totally around, just on a whim. And so they ended up reaching out and selling it to Super Channel and then being able to fund this whole thing. And yeah, I think half the season's out right now. There's 5 episodes, but there's another 7 coming for the B side of season 1 as well.
Okay. Now, the title has kind of a double meaning. What's that about?
Yeah, the title means basically off-grid, as in off-grid locations. Like there's a lot of places like around Manitoba that just haven't been discovered yet. So off-grid in that sense, kind of like undiscovered, off the grid basically. And then off-grid also as in off the electrical grid. So we always turn off as much electricity as we can to the power grid so it won't interact with any of our electrical equipment basically. So we know that whenever we get a reading, there's chances are it's not outside interference. It might actually be a paranormal entity.
So what equipment? How does that work?
Yeah, like EMF meter is one thing that we use a lot.
Especially that one, yeah.
Especially, yeah, it's very sensitive to like outside electrical signals, so we definitely have to make sure that we cut off the power grid.
So that one, it affects electromagnetic fields. So if you were to hold it up, our example we always use is a microwave. So if you hold it up to a microwave, it goes from green to yellow to red.
Right.
If you hold it up to a microwave, it'll just stay solid at yellow because it's giving off, that amount of whatever, electrical frequency.
If it's a haunted microwave,
then it might go red.
Yeah. But if it's like in the middle of a room or something like that, and it's like especially if it's like answering your question, say like you're looking for a ghost and this name's supposed to be John or something like that, and be like, oh, John, can you light it up if you died here? And then right after you answer the question, it lights up to red or something like that. That's kind of how we know.
And there's a lot of times often, where it does, it does pick up things, we can tell when it's picking up something that's just, it's natural.
Yeah.
But then there's often times where we're in a cabin where there isn't even power to the cabin. It's just, it's a wood stove cabin and there's nothing in there and it's not going off for, a full day. And then in the evening, all of a sudden it'll start going off and answer like, it seems like a conscious answer back and forth. Then it's a little creepy and it gets weird.
Yeah. Now you mentioned you guys started Paranormies, YouTube channel yourself. So what do you think about the work you were doing that stands out as being different from? There's a lot of paranormal stuff going on out there. What makes you guys unique?
I think what makes us unique and just interacting with our audience, like Johnny and I have been friends for a very, very long time. We're almost like brothers at this point. And it really comes across in like our interactions because, you know, as we're like hunting ghosts and also just in our interactions because we include other stuff like stuff that happens throughout like in the day and stuff like that. So I think people just enjoy watching us because they really get to see our personalities and they get to know us. And I've heard like some people say that just the way that we kind of like interact with the ghosts is like very refreshing. Like we don't really like try to, you know,
screaming and running around.
yeah, screaming, running around. Like, yeah, we do get freaked out sometimes, but you know,
Yeah.
if you're not doing it right, if you're not. But yeah, I think just like our
More of a nonchalant approach into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just
Well, you sort of picked up on kind of the chemistry between you just in that trailer that we were listening to. But you were saying how you interact with the ghosts. Like, give me an example of interacting with a ghost. What happened?
like we're never really going into it. Like there's so many shows and channels that are going into it with a scientific, you know, they're going into it, you know, looking for some kind of scientific meaning or you know, meaning to how this is possible. And we just go into it, you know, we want to get scared and, you know, we enjoy the adrenaline rush of being scared. So we kind of go into it with that approach. And there's a lot of times we get called, you know, idiots and stuff like that online just because they're like, what are you doing? You're not doing it right. And it's like, we don't know what we're doing. We're just having fun.
just doing
we're
it.
just like one of you who decided to film ourselves doing it.
Exactly.
Really,
Yeah.
I think that's we don't like try to like portray ourselves as these like, you know, hotshot ghost hunters. Like we're just kind of like, you know, your buddies.
Yeah.
You know?
And we're throwing ourselves into situations that oftentimes we don't even want to be in, but we, you know, especially for the show, we get thrown into a little bit more wild situations that we don't necessarily want to do, but at the same time we do, we have to at that point. So it does get really scary. And
Well, give me an example of an adventure or two that you've had where you were scared.
I think we got to go to West Virginia for that one.
What happened?
It was it was our most recent investigation for the show Ghosts Off Grid. We went to Weston, West Virginia to check out the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. It's a very old lunatic asylum. A lot of like bad things happen there. It's too much to get into right now, but there's one specific room where a little girl named Lily is supposed to be. It was seen by, I think, an employee one time, just a full-bodied apparition. And ever since then, people come there and they leave toys for Lily and they try to like basically communicate with her. And we did some investigating in that room and we took a break. We were like actually going to move on to a different part of the asylum. We went to get a drink of water instead. And when we came back, the entire crew just had goosebumps and telling us like something's happening in Lily's room. And like her toys were just going crazy.
yeah, and then they were hearing the sound of babies crying. And
We heard a scream too as we were
Yeah.
like walking back to the room.
it was a really loud
And what were the
yell.
toys doing?
There was one toy that kept saying level 3, just level 3, level 3, level 3, and it kept going on over and over again. But the thing is, we were in and around that area, you know, because they're shooting background stuff like just us walking around and shooting like hero shots and stuff like that. So for hours, 12 hours, nothing happened in this room, and all of a sudden, right at night, when we were about to leave, it started happening. And even Elizabeth, one of the editors on the show, she would pull out her cell phone because we were, like Jordan said, we were out taking a drink of water. So she wanted to try and get a little bit of something. And we heard this woman just breathing super loud. And like, I've showed quite a few people that clip, like just in and around my family. And everyone just kind of gets a grossed out feeling hearing it. It's really bizarre.
So how do you keep making the show if you're scared? Like,
I mean, I always say that it's kind of part of the fun. It's like, you know, why else do you like go on a roller coaster or like go skydiving? Like it's kind of part of the thrill of it.
to be able to keep going. Now, you mentioned Manitoba and Winnipeg. Have you shot any stuff in Winnipeg?
Yeah, we shot
Macbeth House?
the Macbeth House for the show, yeah, and then in and around the area, like Fort Lorraine Museum in Port au Prairie. But in Winnipeg, yeah, we shot and the Hamilton House.
We got to go to Hamilton House, which is really cool. That's a legendary paranormal spot. in
Oh
Winnipeg.
yeah, and can you give us any hints of things that you were looking at or looking for?
That we were actually doing a sort of a seance in there with Kristen Trush, I believe her name is. She was in there and we were doing table tipping. So it's a table tipping session where you put your pointer finger and your pinky finger underneath the table so that you can't really have any leverage with it. And then the table we had two girls in there with us. I can't remember their names off.
Haley and Jillian.
Haley and Jillian, that's right. And they were getting really freaked out. I had done this before one time, and it still blows my mind because the table's sliding around and lifting, and you can look at people's legs and everything, and nobody's moving this table, and it starts lifting and raising, and it was in the same room as Dr. Hamilton used to perform his seances. And
Yeah, he used to perform all kinds of seances in that room, and like there's a lot of famous like pictures in the paranormal space that were taken in that room of like because he was trying to contact his son that had died. It was like what started him on his research.
Yeah.
And you got into this, I know you've known each other for a long time and you share the interest, but do either of you feel like you have sort of paranormal abilities, either as mediums or super sensitive in some way?
I don't think so.
no.
But like we've had people comment in the YouTube comments saying that they believe we do, but that's never really been something that I've ever kind of thought of myself, and or even Jordan thought that we had that.
Yeah, I think people have thought like on YouTube that I'm like sensitive to it, but I'm not really sure if I would like call myself a medium, because we do have to have like a medium sometimes come on the show and kind of help us out, because like I said, like we're more just kind of like your buddies who are just like trying to find out about this stuff and kind of get scared. So I wouldn't say that we're like mediums, but
Yeah, you're receptive.
Maybe a little bit receptive. That might be a good way to put it.
And what's on the very first one? What's the topic?
The first episode?
Yep.
Episode 1 is Fort Lorraine Museum. So that's that one was really fun. That was really interesting. They gave us a lot of time to investigate. I think we had pretty much 2 full days to investigate the property there, and yeah, it was amazing.
Well, we'll have to get people to watch. We're running out of time, but thank you very much for coming in. And I have goosebumps and there are chills running down my spine. Thanks very much to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
That's Jordan Penner and Johnny Wiebe, and they are the hosts of the new show Ghosts Off Grid, and you can catch it through Super Channel. You're listening to CBC Radio Noon. Don't be scared, but the news is next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lachuk in Winnipeg at 12:30, 22 degrees, mainly sunny in the city at the moment. We're looking at a sunny 24. Later on this afternoon, could see a bit of haze across parts of southern Manitoba. International Overdose Awareness Day will officially be marked August 31st in Manitoba. Mental Health Minister Bernadette Smith made that declaration at the legislature today. Last year, 445 people died from substance use in Manitoba. Between January and April, there were 171 deaths. Smith says the province is working on safe consumption sites as well as increased access to services to reduce those numbers.
These are our loved ones. These are our neighbors. These are our community members. And although people might think that, these aren't my loved ones, I don't have to worry about this. This isn't my community. We're all connected. This affects all of us.
The province has also planted a tree on the grounds of the legislative building to honor those who have been lost to overdose. An organization that represents Manitoba's Island Lake First Nations has a new leader. Michael Birch has been voted in as the new Grand Chief of Anishinaabe Ojibway. It represents 4 First Nations in the Island Lake region of northeastern Manitoba. Birch defeated incumbent Scott Harper in an election that was held yesterday. The only store in the tiny Nunavut hamlet of Whale Cove on Hudson Bay burned to the ground last night. That has prompted officials in the community to declare a state of emergency. The store was Whale Cove's only source for groceries and fuel and also housed the town's post office. Hamlet official Stanley Adjuk says the building is a write-off and they're working on ways to get emergency supplies into the community. Overseas today, the World Health Organization says it will start rolling out a polio vaccination program in Gaza this weekend. The WHO says the Israeli military and Hamas have agreed to a series of 3-day pauses in fighting in order to allow the campaign to reach as many children as possible. Juliette Tuma is among those managing the program.
The first round, we're hoping to get to over 600,000 kids under the age of 10. And with polio, you need to give kids 2 doses, but 2 rounds. So we're hoping that we would also be able to have another campaign end of September.
The vaccinations are set to begin on Sunday, with the WHO saying it will need to achieve 90% vaccine coverage in order to stop transmission of the virus within the territory. And finally, Canada has picked up a bronze medal in track cycling at the Paralympic Games in Paris. Keely Shaw of Midale, Saskatchewan, finished 3rd in the women's 3,000 individual pursuit, edging out Samantha Bosco of the U.S. for the bronze. It's a repeat podium appearance for the 30-year-old who won bronze in the same event 3 years ago in Tokyo. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. And of course, you can stay up to date on all the Paralympic coverage as well by heading to CBC Television or CBC Gym.
Thank you very much, Riley. I have
problem.
a question for
Okay.
you. Vintage and collectibles expert Mike Hewen is with us. We're going to have our call-in all about collectibles and so on. And is anything worth anything? Are you interested
my home?
in vintage stuff? I'm going to ask you. Did you ever collect anything?
I don't.
Not a thing?
I don't really have anything. I moved here with very little.
Okay, how old is that T-shirt you're wearing?
This I bought like a month ago.
Oh, boy. Fine then. So you didn't have the hockey cards? You didn't have the marbles? None of those things?
None of that stuff.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Listen,
if
you might win something.
I moved to Winnipeg from Brandon with almost nothing. So,
well, you might want to start a collection after you hear this.
Exactly.
Thanks very much, Riley. That's Riley Lachek. He's at our news desk today. And as I was mentioning, I'm joined by Mike Hewen of, you may remember, from Mike's General Store, and also the Canadian Roadshow. Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we want to talk about vintage items and collectibles. And if you have something you want to ask Mike about, give us a call, 204-780-0893, and find out whether that vintage, impeccable, I'm going to say Barbie doll, something like that. Or
T-shirt.
Yeah, Riley's T-shirt.
Well,
He's
not Riley's,
getting
but
on.
there's a lot of T-shirts there worth a lot of money.
I guess there probably are, eh?
The rock and roll ones.
Really?
Oh, you think back of, if you have a Rolling Stones T-shirt from like one of their early concerts, I mean, they're in hundreds and hundreds of dollars now.
Really?
Well, it just makes sense,
Gee,
right?
yeah. But yet, they're still touring. You can get brand new
and you
ones.
can get the new ones, but they're not the vintage ones.
Yeah,
So,
that's
vintage is always cool.
Well, and of course, you've been in this business for quite a long time, and so you've seen a lot come and go through the doors of your shop.
45 years. When's September 1st? Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be 45 years.
Yeah.
That's a
Wow.
long time.
Wow.
That's why I retired.
So you're practically a collectible yourself, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
Well, we want people to call us and talk collectibles, 204-780-0893. And are there things that you mentioned, the rock and roll concert T-shirts and so on, but are there kind of trends that come and go?
What I've seen in 45 years is amazing. When I started off in business, I mean, oil lamps were selling well. Antique oak furniture, china dishes, all that kind of stuff was hot. And I wasn't really too much into that. I was more into the collectibles and nostalgia. And now we zoom ahead 45 years and nobody wants an oil lamp. Grandma's dishes are just sitting in people's cupboards. The popularity has dropped. And it's basically, the baby boomer generation, we're starting to age, so it's our nostalgia is starting to wean. The younger kids are coming in. My shop has been repurposed. The front of the shop, I turned the whole building into a house.
Yes.
And my two sons took over the front of the store. They wanted a YouTube studio. So there's, my one son does Canadian Computer Collector. The other one does Formula One videos. And, I walked in there one day and says, what the heck are you going to do with all these computers? And then I realized it's not my generation of memories. It's their generation of memories.
Computers.
And who would have ever guessed, right,
Yeah.
that something like a computer would be collectible.
Boy, makes me feel really, really old. Well, we're going to go to the phone lines right away because we want to hear from you. What do you have that you think might be collectible or you're sure is collectible? Or maybe you just want to say hi to Mike and ask him what the trends are. We're going to talk to Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Hello,
Hi.
Jennifer. Hi. Have you got something to
Hi.
say to Mike or a question?
Oh, yeah. I just got curious. You were first of all talking about the Red Rose Tea toys, the little figurines,
Yes.
and that kind of got me thinking about, I have a big box of Kinder Surprise toys from kind of the late 80s, early 90s,
Oh,
and I
boy.
just can't seem to get rid of them.
Yeah, you know what? I got in really deep with those years ago. I must have bought a couple thousand. I knew a guy that was a grocery distributor, and every time there was a Kinder Egg chocolate that was broken, he'd replace it with a new one, mail away the wrapper, and he'd give me the toys and the little pills. And I eventually got rid of them all. I think I sold them off unused, brand new, in the little pills for about 50 cents a piece. It would have been great if I could have shipped them to the States, but they're illegal in the U.S.
So Kinder toys?
You cannot sell Kinder toys in the U.S.
Wow.
Well, it's all lobbying. I mean, basically, it's big chocolate companies fighting big chocolate companies.
Well, Jennifer, it looks like your Kinder toys are not going to make your fortune for you.
Not my
Yeah, don't
fortune.
plan your retirement
Sad
around
to
it.
hear it. I'll wait another 20 years.
Yeah.
Good idea. Thanks for calling, Jennifer.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's talk to Sandra. She has a China tea set, don't you, Sandra?
I do. This set has great sentimental value. I've always wondered about it. I pull it out at Christmas or like with my kids and then grandkids each generation. But I got it as a Christmas gift. It's actually made in Japan. So it's like a little kid's China tea set, but it has like the teapot and the vegetable bowl and the meat platter. The only thing I ever lost was a cork from the salt and pepper shaker. So I've always been curious because it actually has on the bottom, like, made in Japan. It's this little China tea set.
So it won't have a great deal of value for two reasons. The main reason is, as we were saying earlier with Lori, is the China market, the prices are down probably about 75% from where they were, 15 years ago. The fact it says made in Japan, which gives me an idea of the date, which will mean it's more than likely post-war. Post-Second World War. Right after the war, everything that left Japan was marked made in occupied Japan. Prior to that, it was marked Nippon or Nortaki. So from my point of view, it's a contemporary set. From most points of view, it's an antique. But I mean, the value, the sentimental value, probably has more value to than a physical value. And a little cork on the bottom, that's easy enough to replace.
That's right. Just carve it out of your next wine cork.
There you go. I like that idea.
Yeah, it's very special. I just always wondered because, you don't see that, or it just looks well made compared to the ones you saw even when my kids were small. So I've always been curious.
Yeah, unless there's something extra special about it, it won't have a great deal of value.
Okay.
Well, thanks for telling us about it, Mary.
All right. Thank you very much. It was Sandra, but thank you.
Oh, sorry, Sandra. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Bye-bye. I see Mary has called, so I'm jumping ahead of myself. Hi, Mary.
Hi. I want to ask about 3 vases I have. They're about 18 inches high. Japanese picture of 3 ladies in kimonos. One is very small. And the numbers at the bottom of the vase are 12 and 24, and it looks hand-done, the numbers.
Yes, and based on what you've told me, it's near impossible to give you any sort of value on something like that because there's a lot of Japanese porcelain that has a great deal of value, especially since their heritage goes back so many centuries. And then there's a lot of stuff that's contemporary, and when I say contemporary, post-war, 50s forward, that looks really old, and a lot of it is hand-painted because, there was a lot of that going on back right after the war for export. So without seeing something like that, it's really, really difficult to give you an opinion. So much that would depend on age. I wouldn't be the exact expert for something like that. My area of I do have a wide range of knowledge after 45 years, but Japanese pottery and porcelain I used to stay away from because it's so easily to be fooled on it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for calling. And if you have a collectible item that you're wondering about, do give us a call and ask Mike, 204-780-0893. And let's talk to Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Thank you so much. I apologize I don't have all the details, but I'm wondering if there's a market for old cabinet-style record and radio players. Best I can remember was from the 1950s, maybe as late as mid-1960s. I still got all the manuals. The last time I plugged it in, it still worked.
That's a good sign.
And wondering how I go about getting an evaluation.
Well, the interesting thing is, I personally collect a lot of vintage stereo equipment. The record market's really hot right now. When it comes to those console stereos, we all grew up with one in our house. I'm looking at Lori right now. She's nodding her head up and down. My parents had, and everybody's parents had one of those things. Some of them came with dual turntables. Some of them had, nice stereo equipment inside of them. But generally speaking, nobody collects them other than maybe as a decor piece. And a lot of the value will depend on what's inside, what the electronics are inside. The other problem you have with electronics, if it hasn't been used regularly, the pods for, the volume control and the bass and everything, they get dirty inside and they got to be sent out. They got to be cleaned, and you're paying crazy amounts of money for labor just to clean something like that. So at that point, is it really worth spending the money on? Generally speaking, through 45 years, I try to stay far away from those as possible.
Wow.
In other words, I'm finding a room for it in my basement.
Well, exactly. I mean, they're kind of retro now. It's interesting because the younger generation has all of a sudden grasped a lot of things that they missed out on. And they missed out on vinyl records and cameras and typewriters. And all of a sudden, this market just came right back and people are embracing it. And that whole sort of mid-century modern look. So if your cabinet has that kind of a mid-century modern look, yes, it will have value based on its appeal.
And you have the records to go with it. Great. Thanks very much for your call, Mark. And just to inspire people, you've brought a few items along that other people might have.
I always bring something in.
Yeah.
I collect microphones.
Yes.
And this one I just grabbed off the top of the shelf because it is a
CBC.
A CBC microphone. Weighs a ton.
It looks like it.
Had I come in the studio maybe 50 years ago, I'd be speaking into this.
That's right.
Very cool. It would probably date just pre-war, in between the two wars, the First and Second War. It's got a cast iron, what they call the flag on the top, which is the big CBC lettering on the top. Beautiful piece, hard to find. Another thing that's really popular in the market, I thought I'll bring things that are actually hot.
That people might have.
Yeah, a 1950s orange crushed thermometer. I'm sure some of the listeners will still remember the brown, crinkly bottle. This would have just been nailed to the outside of a grocery store.
Looks brand new.
Well, that's what makes it valuable. I mean, it's condition. Now, if I put this outside for 1 year, it would start to fade.
Yeah.
So this one's never been outside. A sign like this in this shape, it's like $1,000 now.
Damn.
With a little bit of wear, maybe $600-700, and beat up maybe $100.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about vinyl records. I just happened to grab a few, and I thought, we got the Rolling Stones with the zipper.
Look at that. Oh, I had that album.
You had that album. There you go.
Did.
Very popular. I mean, Sticky Fingers with the zipper now. So
now an antique.
$30 to $40 record, nice shape. And then we just celebrated
my other fave.
55 years ago, 2 weeks ago, right? Woodstock.
Wow,
I mean, now we're old.
Now we're old.
And then, of course, I brought this in. I mean, I always frame up a couple of my favorite albums. The first Rush album was one of my favorite, has a very strong meaning for me. But the interesting thing about this album is when Rush first came out, they went to a small label called Moon in Toronto, and they produced a couple thousand records, and immediately they were bought up by the Mercury label. So the original copies, which is one of these, this one here I paid $100 for because it's in terrible shape. So in good shape, the value is amazing.
Wow. Well, that must inspire people. And we have people on the line. Give us a call at 204-780-0893. And we have LT on the line. Hello.
Hello.
And what would you like to ask about?
Well, I have some figurines. They're about 6 inches tall and quite a variety of sports themes. So football and baseball and hockey and various different teams, and really don't know what to do with them.
And how old are they?
Oh, probably some of them would be likely 20 years old.
In my world, that's not old. But, depending on what they are and who made them, yes, I mean, a lot of contemporary collectibles do have a great deal of value in collectibles, and sports-related memorabilia as a whole is very popular. So it really comes down to who made them, what condition they're in. They're not in packaging or anything like that.
No, they're not in packaging.
Yeah, so they're probably a resin cast, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So, they won't have an exceptional amount of value, but, I mean, they're kind of cool. And they are saleable because, like I say, anything sports-related, there's always a huge following for sports memorabilia.
They sound nice.
Oh, my difficulty is, like, they were part of, someone passed away in the family, and now we're trying to dispose of all the things he had in the house, and he was a great sports fan. And I don't know, I don't want them, but I don't know what to do with them. How how to find people who might be interested.
Yeah, I mean, you could always put a, as most people do these days, put a little ad on Marketplace, or something to that nature. Or if, somebody's having a yard sale, stick them into the yard sale with them, And like I say, I mean, they wouldn't warrant, somebody like myself to come out there and have a look at them. But they were the old bobblehead dolls. Remember those? Where the heads bumped up and down, and they used to have all the CFL teams. Yeah. Those would be very collectible and very desirable and valuable today.
But what I don't know is like what kind of value.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
It's probably $5 to $10 each on a good day.
Yeah. Well, LT, I hope you enjoy them, whatever you do with them, and thank you very much for your call. And we're going to go to Steve now. Steve, we were just running into a few minutes left here, but we want to hear about your old plate.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of plates from the Bradford Exchange that my dad purchased probably back in the 90s with a bunch of hockey players, some new ones, some old ones.
Well, okay, the fact that you said hockey players, you don't have to use them as dog dishes anymore. Generally speaking, collector plates have almost zero value. The fact that they had the hockey players on them, again, they'll be collectible, as I said to the previous lady, to the sports people that collect sports memorabilia. And their value, I mean, you could probably check them up online. They're probably, they're not going to have a huge value. They're probably like, $10 to $40 each, depending on what the players are.
Right. I've also got a ton of hockey cards from the 70s and 80s.
And, the 80s is getting a little late. The 70s, some of the sets are still really good. And condition.
That's my retirement.
That's your retirement. Thanks very much, Steve.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for calling. Hugh. Let's get Hugh on the line. Hello.
Hi.
What did you want to ask Steve? Mike, sorry. Steve, Mike. Ask Steve, too.
Hey, I'll be Steve for today.
Yeah.
I just had a question about, I don't know if you know about the Iceman drink coolers. They were Star Wars R2-D2. They were sort of displays inside the stores.
Okay, I'm somewhat familiar with that. Star Wars memorabilia as a whole is sort of like almost like a cult following right now. It's almost like a religion. So anything that's, dates the first trilogy. So, we're talking 77 to the mid-80s. All that stuff has a great deal of value. So if yours dates from that era, then yes, it does have a great value. If it dates later from like the second trilogy, episodes 1, 2, or is it 1, 2, and 3, values a lot less. And if it's anything later than that, the values, it's just a collectible kind of fun thing.
Oh.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was sort of wondering about is these coolers, they were on another antique show or whatever, and they valued it at like $2,000 or whatever. And now it seems like everyone's stuck on that number. And I was just wondering how do you navigate when you know that it's not that worth that much?
For myself, years ago we didn't have the internet, and I have a library the size of this room, which is a decent sized room that was just full of books, and I do my research that way, and also through magazines and et cetera that I subscribe to. Today you can go on the internet and you have to find exactly what you have and look at a sold price, not an asking price, a sold price. Asking prices are meaningless, but I'm sure if these were mass produced, that they will have sold at some point at some auction somewhere. And then you look at the condition of the one that sold and look at the condition of yours. When did that one sell? What is the market? How much has it changed from the time that one sold to where we are today? And that's how you establish a value.
Sounds like you've got something valuable there, though.
Definitely.
Good work, Hugh.
I've had about 3 of them in the past 10 years, I think.
That's pretty good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for calling. And we're going to speak with Alana. We're just got a couple of minutes left. So, Alana, what have you got?
So, are you saying that a whole set of Royal Albert bone china from the mid-'60s is not worth anything?
It's worth a heck of a lot less today than it was 10 years ago. So what pattern is it?
It's the English tea rose, the yellow rose.
Yeah, and that's one of the least desirable patterns. So, a cup and saucer is probably like $5. Dinner plates are probably $10 to $12. Coffee pots or teapots are probably like 50, 60. Coffee pots are more. Covered vegetable dishes in any series are the hardest to find. A vegetable dish with a lid. So it really depends on what you have. Yes, it does have a value.
Yeah,
it
no,
just
I've got
doesn't have
the whole set, like the coffee and the tea and the cream and sugar and the cups and saucers and the little plates.
Yeah, it's the completer pieces. Coffee mugs instead of teacups are more valuable. Cream soups are more valuable. So yeah, but like I say, every year more of that stuff comes for sale, and every year there's less people who are looking for it. And I look at my kids who are in their mid-30s. They would just shake their head. I'm in my mid-60s and I shake my head.
Because of all these shows like The Crown and all these shows about the royalty, that these places that are selling, that are serving high tea and stuff.
Sure.
So places like that wouldn't be interested in
Oh,
them?
you can give them a call, but don't expect a lot of money for it.
Yeah, try.
Okay,
That's a good
thank
idea.
you.
Thank you for calling. I think we have time to talk to Darlene. Hi, Darlene.
Hi, I'm phoning for my husband, and he has...
You don't have your husband's voice on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's here now, but he wasn't when I phoned. He has a couple of Queen Elizabeth coronation mugs that are in pretty good shape.
Right.
What would they be worth?
Not a heck of a lot, probably 10 to 15 bucks on a good day, depending on what you're serving inside of them. So if you're serving rum, you may get a little bit more. If you're serving tea, a little bit less. But a very common piece, coronation piece.
Oh, okay.
Do you use them
thanks
for
your time.
anything?
No, they just sit and we look at them.
Oh.
And I dust them.
Well, that's worth it too.
Yeah, go have tea with them this afternoon.
Okay, we'll think about that. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling, Darlene. Now, before I let you go, there's a couple of other things that you have that you brought in.
Oh,
little
yeah, you know what?
cars.
I mean, this is, thinking of markets that are hot. These are Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels,
They're dating back. I mean, I was 10 years old in 1968, so there you go. You know my age now.
Yeah.
And Hot Wheels came out, and they were just like the coolest thing ever.
Right.
And I remember about 30 years ago, a lady brought some into the store. Nobody was collecting them at the time, and I thought, I'll buy them because it's my nostalgia now.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wow, I'm finally collecting something that has a nostalgia to me.
Oh, can you hold it up? Because we're on YouTube.
Oh,
there
we go.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
Hot Wheels cars. Yeah, definitely. And you know what?
Sorry, go on.
One of the things that I've collected, and I've collected now for the 30 years, is the Hot Wheels because it's my nostalgia.
Sure, mine too.
And the fact that they're still making them today, I go around to the shows.
They're not
and
like they
everything.
used to be, though.
Well, they never. Nothing is.
Nothing is. That's right. They look alike, though.
Yeah.
And so, are these collectible now?
Oh, very, very collectible. I mean, the little chrome one here, which was what you had to mail away to get, it's probably, what have we got, $45. The little Beatnik Bandits, probably $30. I mean, one of the things I've started to do since I've retired, we're running the big antique show at the Downs, which is at the end of the month. We run the 2 record shows in the city. Plus, I'm set up because people say, oh, when can I come over and whatever. I said, well, you can come visit me at the shows. So if anybody wants to say hi or whatever,
sure.
The next show's coming up at the Assiniboia Downs at the end of the month. And, like I say, the market changes. And the market changes because everybody's nostalgia is different.
Yeah.
So what's nostalgic to you and me may not be nostalgic to the next person.
And what is the sort of holy grail that you're still looking for in terms of a collectible? Just before I let you go, what's the one thing you wish you could find?
I love signs. I mean, I love the old tin and porcelain signs. I get surprised every time I get one I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Recently I bought 6 big upright Coke signs with cartons of Coke on them, and I was just blown right away from it. So you never know what it's going to be. The next door opens and something cool shows up.
Well, I would say the pair of us are actually valuable antiques
Well, there
as well.
you go. Yeah, we're priceless, though.
That's right. But we can always get a new paint job.
Yes, that's true. Or a new hairdo.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you, Mike, and
Well, thank
our
you very
listeners
much.
certainly enjoyed it very much, and maybe they'll see you at the big show.
Great to be back in the studio.
Oh, great. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That's Mike Hewen, and he was in answering your questions, and of course, he is a vintage and collectibles expert. We're just coming up to a couple minutes before 1 o'clock, and Up to Speed host Faith Fundal has joined us in studio as well. They do not figure as an antique.
I was going to say, when you say priceless, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I just want to double check, because if you're saying the bad thing, I disagree.
We'll be at the next garage sale for 25 cents and make me an offer. Yeah.
You know, you folks have lots of fans, and as you know, the Blue Bombers also have many fans. There's going to be a bus full of them heading to Ryder territory this weekend, so we're going to check in with them before they head out for the Labor Day Classic game. It's going to be fun. And we'll hear more about an after-school program offering leadership skills for queer students from grades 8 to 12. We'll speak with the instructors running the Get Real Movement program here in Manitoba.
That sounds very interesting. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you.
Faith Fundal, host of Up to Speed. You can hear them this afternoon from 3 to 6. And I want to say thank you very, very much to May McKillop, who's our technical director. Our director is Wendy Parker. YouTube live stream director is Travis Peterson. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten, filling in for Janet Stewart. And I'll join you again next week after the September long weekend. See you on Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.